Hello there. Making a few little adjustments there with the camera and so forth. It's my usual story where I have to complete the work that I do from home, which is primarily doing a lot of work for the wonderful Dr. Whimsy Anderson, contacting a lot of her clients. And invariably, I seem to always start a show at least 5 or 6 minutes late. I've said often it's like a full locomotive train going down the tracks, complete speed, and then slamming the brakes, and that train just slowly comes to a stop, but not a complete stop. And that's where I am often when I'm getting ready for this show. Uh, More times than not, I have a phone call and I've got a person. I can't just cut them off and say, "Oh, I have to go star on my YouTube show." Hey Ward, thank you for joining. Oh, you can't stay longer than 6 p.m. my time. A very early AM shift. Where it's very sweet of you to log on, Ward. I appreciate that because I know what that's like. Um, when I was working my regular job up until before the pandemic killed it, 5.5 years ago, I had a job. It was in the health industry, but I had to report for work at 7 a.m. And due to the logistics of Los Angeles traffic in the morning, finding parking, just getting ready in the morning, showered, shaved, make my breakfast, coffee, all that stuff, I'd have to be up at 4:45 a.m. I tried doing it a little later. I found it just didn't work, or I'd be rushing so much. I found that was where I could do it, where I could kind of ease into the morning a little bit, but still 4:45 a.m. Ick for a night person like me. Plus, I'm a night person. I work hard. I do a lot of work. I do it all from home, but I'm one of these people. I'm not good at setting boundaries like 9 to 5 or something. So oftentimes I'm working well into the evening, and sometimes I don't go to bed till about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. And I think, oh my God, this is like the polar opposite of what I used to have. But it's very much in sync with me. I'm a creative person. Creative people tend to like to stay up at late. Ever since I was a little child, my mother and father, being responsible parents, would make me go to bed, say by 9:30, 10 o'clock, like that. If you have to be up for first, second grade, and I'd lay wide awake till midnight, 1 in the morning, because my body clock just was not in sync with that. But anyway, Ward, thank you for joining. Kathy, thank you. Oh, Kathy, I'll be in touch with you, by the way. Thank you. We'll talk later. Let's see. And Ward, thanks for telling about the Hold the Roses. I saw it on YouTube. It was very much worth the wait. Hold the Roses. Hold the Roses. I'm trying to remember that title. Hold the Roses. Forgive me. I'm having a senior moment here. Thinking of War of the Roses, are you? Hold the Roses. Anyway, refresh me, Ward, please. Thank you. And let's see. Andy is here. Thank you. And Chris. Hey, Chris. Thanks for joining in. Sorry for my senior moment there, Ward. Let's see, Ward. Actually, I kind of think it's cool to dive into work before 4 a.m. and seeing my usually packed city streets almost empty. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I certainly understand why people love the morning. The few times I've done it, I thought, well, this is kind of cool. There hardly anybody is out, and it's nice and quiet. And certainly, if you're lucky enough in a city like LA, if it's really early, you can actually get out before there's any traffic. Oh, pardon me, Ward. Of course, Hold the Roses. I always think of that as just the Rosemary documentary. I forgot that was the title, so please pardon me. That's why that title was not resonating with me. That is an excellent documentary. I mean, my God, what a life. I mean, that woman's show business career actually went back to the days of vaudeville and the early days of radio, the early days of Hollywood movies. Many who watch that woman on the Dick Van Dyke Show don't realize what a huge child star she was, little baby Rosemary. And of course, I told the story of how I was at the Motion Picture Academy a few years ago when they had an event celebrating the then 90th anniversary of The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson, purportedly the first Sound movie. And I discussed on here how that was not true. But they had Rosemary on stage as their guest before the movie for a Q&A, because it's hard to dig up anybody who was still alive from that era. And she was fascinating to listen to. I've met Rosemary a couple of times. The first time I met her was at the party for the 50th anniversary of I Love Lucy. And that was held on the soundstage where it was shot. And this was back in 2001. I've told this story before, what an event that was. And a friend of mine knew her, and he said, "Oh, let me introduce you to Rosemary." And I just shook her hand, spoke with her briefly, sweet, gracious lady. And then a few years later, I had a far more personal experience with her. And I hope you don't mind me telling this again, but it was when I was at the Barnes and Noble bookstore at the Grove Shopping Mall here in Los Angeles, which is right next to the Farmers Market and CBS, Beverly and Fairfax. And I was going there for a book signing. It was Dick Van Dyke, whose autobiography had just come out. And it was a limited number of people. You had to get a bracelet to put on. They were only going to let 200 people get in line. I think that had been mandated by Dick Van Dyke, and I don't blame him. When you're older, and it's hard. It's hard interacting with a lot of people and signing a lot of books. Some people can do it for hours and hours, and I've watched that too. I watched Joan Rivers do it, but it was 200 people, so I didn't get my bracelet, and I was like, oh, dejected. Walking at the door, and I saw my friend Michael Stern. I said, "Chuck, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, Michael, hi, great. Oh, I was here to see Dick Van Dyke." And he goes, "Oh, I'm here too." And he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm meeting with Rosemary, my friend Rosemary. She's going to be here. We're all going up to the green room to meet with Dick before his signing." And he said, "Why don't you come with us? You want to come up?" And I was like, "Can I?" And he said, "Oh, sure, come on." And it was just like a minute or two later, someone came up with Rosemary. She was in her wheelchair. I said hello to her and everything. And I pushed Rosemary's wheelchair as we were going toward the elevator. And remember her in her chair pressing the button for us. And we went up, and we went to what is the green room, the waiting area. And we go to the door, and I did the knocking, and Dick Van Dyke opened the door, and of course he sees Rosemary. "Oh, Rosie, how are you? I'm so excited to see you." She came there to surprise him, and then of course the rest of us came in, and we spent some delightful time with them. She's a gracious lady. Anyway, I should better get back to my comments here. People are asking about Hold the Roses. Andy, you thought it had to do with horse racing. Well, it does kind of sound that way, doesn't it? Because I think there's even that song, Run for the Roses, Dan Fogelberg. I had to blanked on his name for a moment there. Yeah. Ward, you're just talking about the details of the interview and all. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You're reminding me, I want to see that again. That's one of the cool things about having an Amazon Prime membership. Pardon me, I know to cover my product endorsement here, which is not my product endorsement, but YouTube has these rules. You're not supposed to do that. But yeah, Ward, that was a cool experience I had there. I've been very, very lucky. Pardon me, my nose is itching. Anyway, that's what I'm scratching it. But anyway, I've lived here. Labor Day weekend of this year is going to mark 40 years I've lived here in LA. And I remember my first 2 weeks, I was complaining, "I haven't met any celebrities. Where are they?" And my neighbor in my apartment building said, "Oh, don't worry. You're going to meet a lot of celebrities. I promise you that. And sure enough, within the matter of weeks, I met dozens. Uh, Anybody who lives in LA has these stories. So it's nothing special. It's not a big deal, but I love that I can share it with a lot of other people, all of you around the country. I know like my family loves to hear the stories. A lot of people I grew up with love to hear this. Here in LA, you tell us people are going to usually look at you and yawn. Um, but I still remember things like, I moved out here from Richmond, Virginia. And one of the last things I did was watch the movie Cocoon, the one Ron Howard directed, Jessica Tandy and who else in it? It was a big all-star cast of older actors, Don Amici. But it was Steve Guttenberg, of course, was one of the stars in that. And I saw that. And then like 2.5 weeks later, he was the first celebrity I ever met. I thought, oh my God, I'm actually talking to this guy I just saw in a movie 2.5 weeks ago. I was fresh off the turnip truck, so this was a big deal. And then I think the next one I met was Sissy Spacek. And then I met the wonderful Gilda Radner. Oh my God, was I lucky. And at the time, I was working out in Westwood Village, which is near the UCLA campus. And unfortunately, Westwood is not, it's past its glory days, but back then it was still a big deal. Lots of movie theaters there. So a lot of movie premieres would be held there. And one of the days I was working a little later, they were having the world premiere of Rocky Part 4. I think there were 5 or 6 altogether. This was Rocky 4, but it was a big star-studded occasion, and I got to get down there in time to stand right on the ropes of the red carpet and just be face to face with so many famous people. I still remember like Mel Brooks and Bancroft. Of course, Sylvester Stallone was there. That's where I met Olivia Newton-John. I'll tell it some other time on all the celebrities I met. But I mean, this was like, I felt like a kid in a candy store, This was the Hollywood dream for me. It meant so much. I better get back to some comments here. Let's see. Oh, Andy, we're singing. I wish I had friends who knew big stars. We know me. Maybe you should get a cup cozy, Sir Chuck. A cup cozy? Maybe. But meantime, I just set it here on my little coffee table here. And I try to be very, very mindful because of, I don't know where she is right now, but you've all met Sasha, my Siamese cat, who gets into everything. And during the summer months, even when I have an air conditioner, it still gets hot. I know the East Coast, central part of America is getting hit very hard by the heat wave. It's not quite so bad here, but it's going to get worse. But anyway, I keep an electric fan over here. I apologize for a little bit of the buzzing, but I do have this paranoia that one day Sasha's going to come by, knock my cup of water or whatever it is I'm drinking right on the electric fan, and I'm going to be here doing the show and get electrocuted or something. But so far that has not happened. That would be a Mercury retrograde event now, wouldn't it? Well, Andy, I don't know if it's so much about lucky and meeting celebrities. It's just being in the right place. Like I just live in a city. I think if you live in a place like, definitely Los Angeles, you live in a place like New York, possibly Chicago. Of course, maybe you could chime in on that. But places like that, you're much more likely to just naturally meet celebrities. LA, we've got television stars, we've got movie stars, we've got music stars, we have political stars, we have news stars here, writers, you name it. It's just a city of talent. And I was having this conversation with she's a celebrity friend of mine, but she asked me to always respect her confidentiality, and I will do so, of course, here. But she's originally from New York. She was a New York actress. And we were talking about, because we're both very sensitive to energy that's around us. And a lot of people with Los Angeles, it's love or hate. Ugh, I hate that place. How do you stand that place? You see, I love it. I've always loved it. I've never become jaded to it. because I tap into energy. I love the collective energy of talent in this city. I just feel it. I feed off of it. I find it nurturing to me in a strange way. So I've never become jaded to it. Hey Jim, thank you for joining. You almost forgot about my stream. Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much for coming on here. Let's see here. This thing jumps. When I'm trying to scroll down a little, it'll go, whoop, the whole thing goes up, and then I have to find everything again. 100 degrees in your city? Yuck. Yuck. I was talking to a very dear friend of mine in North Carolina yesterday on the phone, and she said the humidity is unbearable. It was for me too. And I used to live back on the East Coast. I lived in Virginia grew up there. And my parents, for some reason, did not want air conditioning. Didn't get that. We all have things about our mother and father we never quite understood. Finally, they agreed to bedroom air conditioning. I had one in my bedroom, they one in theirs, but the rest of the house wasn't. And it wasn't until after I was grown and I had long moved away, they finally got central air conditioning. And I went back there for a visit and I said, Mom and Dad, why did you not do this ages ago? Well, we didn't know we were going to like it so much. So there was that. But I have never been a fan of heat. When I get someone who says to me, oh, don't you just love this hot summer weather? I want to say, are you out of your mind? I'm not in sync with it. I actually like cold weather. I thrive on it. A few years ago, I had to go back to Boston for one of my niece's weddings. It was December. It was, I think with the wind, it was minus 17 degrees. I loved it. Now, granted, I loved it because I was visiting it and it was a novelty. If I had to live in it full time, I'm sure it'd be a very different story. And it's very easy to say things like that when I live in Southern California and we have probably one of the finest climates in the entire world. I have a little convertible sports car, and that top is down year round, even in January and February. Oh, Andy, you wonder where Joyce is? I would imagine Joyce is just busy right now. She's got a lot going on. What was this, Chris? Yes, I definitely have met some actors here just on the street over the years. I figured so, being there in Chicago, you would. And then, of course, the theater community there and a lot of big names come there to do shows. Like they come here from Broadway here to LA. To me, that's one of the great joys of living in a city like Los Angeles. Eventually, we get to see our Broadway shows. Here, we either see the Broadway show when it's being developed, and it starts here and it goes to Broadway, or it's become a major hit on Broadway and then it comes out here. But either way, we get to see it. But it's something I'm going to do this Friday. I have a ticket for the Hollywood Bowl for a show that I have a feeling is going to be quite controversial. But I'm going to see the wonderful Cynthia Erivo in Jesus Christ Superstar. And Adam Lambert is going to co-star in it. Adam, I used to see him all the time when I was in the health industry. And so I have a nice acquaintanceship with him. So much so, he would know who I am if I were to send a little note backstage. Like, can I come backstage and visit? But I don't know if I'll do that. Plus, I'm also guessing the security is going to be extremely tight. I'm not going to go into all the politics and the controversy here. I think that's rather obvious. We have a Black lesbian woman playing Jesus Christ, a very gifted woman. And I think she is going to be phenomenal, but I think that is going to outrage some people. So we're going to see. My great hope is that the security is going to be extra tight purposely, because, that's the bowl seats 18,000 people. And of course, you're allowed to bring picnic baskets and bottles of wine and all that. But I hope they do extra tight inspections of like the baskets and bags and things that people bring in. As it is, we usually have to go through metal detectors and all. That's sadly become the norm just about anywhere now for public events like this. But I do hope they keep the security tight. I hope it's safe. I hope it goes well. But I'm really looking forward to this. It was a hard ticket to get. I had to get it 3 months ago, and it was already almost sold out. Yeah, let's see, what are some other comments here. Jim, oh shoot, I wish this thing wouldn't jump around. Let me find my place again. Okay, I got it. I'm so sorry. My comment scroll jumps. Let's see here. Yes, let's see where you were saying 100 degrees. I got to find this real quick here. Oh, Jim, you were saying, Chuck, no air conditioning. No, I have air conditioning, but this the way this is a great old apartment built in 1941. I mean, fabulous fireplace, crown molding, French windows. It's got beautiful character. But unfortunately, there's no place to put an air conditioning here in the living room because of the French windows. So I have an air conditioning in my adjacent kitchen, and I crank that thing up, but there's only so much it can do. So I have to supplement it with fans here in the living room. That's what's going on. Oh, Goddess Val, thank you for joining. And Kate, thank you. Yeah, you were saying most of Europe doesn't have air conditioning. It's brutal for them in recent years. I know that. I remember this was even a while back. This was in the late 90s. I think it was 1999. I was in London, and I had been there in the fall, winter, spring, but I'd never been there in the depths of summer. Oh my God. Because London, of course, is very humid. That's why there's all the fog, normally. Well, all that humidity combined with like 90 to 100 degree weather. Oh, water was just pouring off at me constantly. And I hope a lot of buildings now have incorporated air conditioning. At the time, there were a lot of places, including movie theaters, that did not have air conditioning. Oh, dear Lord. And the subway, the tube, at that time was not air conditioned. I don't know if they've modified that or not, but I remember, because when I'm in London, I love to go to the West End and see plays. I try to see a play every single night I'm there. And so I was staying, where was I staying? I was staying somewhere in Earl's Court, which is near Harrods. And I had to take the tube to the West End, and I had a nice shirt and tie on. I looked all nice, yes, we should dress for the theater. Well, on the subway, the tube, this was rush hour. So it was just crammed full of people. I mean, people standing, holding, the loops and things, and no place to sit. And we got stuck. It just, for some reason, the tube stopped cold for about 45 minutes. And the heat and the humidity was unbearable. And by the time I got out of there and got to the theater, I literally looked like someone had poured a bucket of water over my head. I was soaked from head to toe in icky, yucky, disgusting sweat. My good clothes, my hair was all wet, everything was awful. That's what I remember about it. Let's see here. I'm going to try to move up. Let's see if, okay, it didn't go blip this time. Ward got the thumbs up done. Recall Siskel and Ebert when they were cool on PBS. Oh yeah, I got to meet each of them individually. They were nice enough people, but I used to love their show. And I remember one time, let's see, Siskel was the taller, thinner one, I believe. Yeah, Roger Ebert. He was He was the one that was a little more heavier set. And by the way, Roger Ebert wrote the most incredible autobiography. I'm trying to think of the title of it, but it's a marvelously written book. And of course, he had a lot of tragedy later in his life. He had cancer. He had to have his jaw removed. Poor man, I remember that. But he was so brave, and he kept on making appearances, even when he lost his ability to speak. But I remember when he and his wife were on Oprah Winfrey. But I got to meet each of them individually. But I remember one time I was, on Oscar night, I used to walk up the hill to Spago's when it was still on Horn Street and Sunset, and Swifty Lazar, the famous agent, used to throw a big Oscar party there. So after the Oscars were on television, I'd walk up the hill, stand across the street and watch all the stars go in, or I'd watch them come out. And Siskel came out by himself, and somebody yelled, "Where's your partner?" And Siskel said, "He's at McDonald's." I remember that. But I think they used to kid each other good naturedly, because it was after, because I know Siskel passed away first, and I remember Roger Ebert on the show did the most beautiful, heartfelt tribute to him. And he said at the end, people ask us all the time, do we hate each other? He said, no, we never hated each other. Not at all. Not at all. But they were very different. And they used that on the show, and they celebrated it. And I think that's why we loved watching them. Kate, I saw more celebrities in New York City than Los Angeles. They walk more instead of driving. That's a very good point. My sister used to live in New York City many, many years ago. She's a lot older than I am. She's 14 years older. So when she was a young adult, I was still just in grade school. But it was after I moved out here. And, she always wants to hear all the Hollywood stories and all the Hollywood gossip, in which, like particularly when I was working in the health industry, I used to get a lot of stories because we had a lot of people who worked at the movie studios, people who worked in publicity offices, that type of thing. Even people who were hairdressers, makeup artists, electricians, they all had good inside stories of what was going on the sets and everything. So I used to get all that. But my sister was saying, I'm so envious of you. You meet all these celebrities. And I said, but you must have met a ton of celebrities yourself when you were in New York. And then she thought back. She said, you know what? You're right. I did. You did. And that's a good point you make about walking. Jackie Kennedy Onassis, she used to love to walk around. And Garbo, oh my gosh, there are so many stories of Garbo sightings, and she was such an inveterate walker. I haven't been to New York in a long time. I got to get back there. Let's see here. War was saying, why would anyone with a brain drive in New York City? And that's a good point. I wouldn't want to do it. Let's see here, Jim Nettie. PBS is the network where I first saw Siskel and Ebert. My dad loved the movie reviews. I think we all did. They were a lot of fun. I still miss that show to this day. Excuse me here. I haven't found a gracious way to sip water and continue talking. And this is where I need a co-star who could take over for a moment. Like when I do the show with Dr. Whimsy Anderson on Tuesdays and now Thursdays. We're on twice a week now. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Oh, Ward, your father was a history professor. Oh, I bet you had some good discussions in your household. I love history. Oh, I would have been in heaven. My father had been a history teacher. We would have, frankly, been more bonded, I think. Let's see here. Yeah, Greta Garbo walked well into her 80s. That is true. She used to, and I've told the stories of how she used to come out here to Los Angeles just to visit friends, but she was coming out here well into her 80s. I'm trying to think I think she was 84 when she passed away. She had, I forget the specifics, but I know it was related to her kidneys. She was getting kidney dialysis. they were failing her. I don't know if it was cancer or not. But she used to come out here, and I, of course, told the story of how she may have served me potato salad. And forgive me, I don't want to keep repeating the same stories, but I told about how she was good friends with the woman who owned Quinn's health food store on Melrose. And Garbo, just for the fun of it, would come out here to visit her friend. The two women would just go back in the kitchen talking Swedish and putting on their aprons and baking bread. And Garbo, I guess, she was always the actress, always improvising. And she thought it was fun to come out and work the cash register and work the deli section. And nobody apparently had a clue that this was Garbo. The stories came out later confirming it definitely was her. And I do remember the woman with the long silver hair and the Swedish accent. I'm almost positive Garbo served me potato salad, which I think is cool because I love Greta Garbo. A huge fan. Let's see here. Andy... you were talking about Anastasia there. Oh, Anastasia chat, Jim. Yeah, she's going to be on after me. I always give my dear friend Anastasia Pavlov a plug. She comes on 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Her channel, The Sacred Spears. I'm always so proud of her as she just started into this, and she's really thriving and she's really finding her voice. And sometimes she gets very silly and off the wall, and sometimes she gets deadly serious, funny. She's everything. She is such a brilliant woman, and any of you who have checked her out, and I know many of you have, you know what I'm talking about, and I know she's grateful for you. And Jim, yes, Garbo was remarkable. Oh my God. When I was in college, we had a revival theater right off of campus called the Biograph in Richmond, Virginia. And they regularly had screenings of old classics on the big screen. And oh my God, I went to a double feature of Camille and Nanachka, probably her two greatest movies back to back. And I had a friend from New York once say to me that he saw Camille on a big screen, and he said, I was, quoting him, I was hypnotized. And I sat there kind of thinking the same thing. It was like being mesmerized, hypnotized, but just hanging on to her every nuance. She was such a remarkable actress, and there was so much going on in her eyes. And I later found out in separate interviews, Bette Davis, Katharine Hepburn, and Meryl Streep all cited Greta Garbo as their all-time favorite actress. And I totally see why. But I saw Camille first. And then in Nanachka, it's a wonderful comedy directed by Ernest Lubitsch and with a screenplay. I believe Billy Wilder, I think he co-wrote it. But it's one of the greatest screen comedies ever made. And you would never expect Garbo to be this great comedian. And in the beginning of the movie, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but she's parroting her own image, the I want to be alone, all that, deadly serious. And then her character falls in love and the ice just melts and she just becomes so sweet and funny and endearing and so full of life. And I love both of those performances so much. She was Oscar nominated for each one. And I was speaking with someone who was at Quinn's. Garbo was notorious for being very, very private about herself. But apparently she did one day talk a little bit with some of the workers there. And it came up in conversation. What was your favorite film you ever made? And she said, well, I know Camille's my most important, but my personal favorite is Nanachka. That's my favorite movie. So that was directly from Garbo. Let's see. Passed away, Jim, on April 15th, 1990, New York City, of pneumonia and renal kidney failure. Yeah, I knew it was primarily kidney failure, and it's possible in her weakened state that's what brought on the pneumonia. I still remember that weekend. I remember it being, it was Easter. It was Easter weekend. I think it was Easter Sunday. I was in San Francisco. I was in Napa Valley with a friend. We were driving around when we heard it announced on the radio. That's what I remember about that. Let's see here. Ward, I liked Queen Christina. I do too. Oh my God, that final shot of the Swedish monarch going into exile and freedom. And I'm sure, I don't know, I've told the story about that because, it's a famous scene. It's iconic, of Garbo just standing at the steering wheel of the ship. I don't think she was steering the ship necessarily, but she was standing there. And there's the ocean and the wind. And of course, she looks impeccable, with her long eyelashes and her hair is just blowing ever so softly in the wind, but she's standing there very, very stoic. And I read about that. The director said, I want you to empty your head of all thoughts. I just want you to stand there and we're going to photograph you. And of course, it's just the camera moving in slower and slower and slower. But the director knew what he was doing, because the great Garbo, some people, you tell them to empty to their heads. Well, some people don't even have to be told that. But anyway, most people, you think of emptying your head, you think of just blank. No, he knew the power of her soul, her eyes, her soul, and he knew that couldn't help but be present. And that's what you see on screen, just Garbo standing there, not thinking of anything. But yet, at the same time, she's encompassing everything. It's beautifully done. And I also love that scene where she's abdicating the throne. And she's so loved by her people. No, Your Majesty, no. I don't want to be queen anymore. She's taking her crown off and dropping her robes and drops her scepter and walks off. No, Your Majesty, come back. You're back. And another piece of trivia about Queen Christina. Remember the little girl who plays her in the beginning? That little girl, I think she just died not too long ago. She lived to be in her 90s. Yeah. Let's see. What are some other comments in there? Okay. Then they had a few Wonder Dogs during the worst film segment. Oh my God. Siskel and Ebert were just as much fun when they were trashing movies. Or what was really fun was when one of them loved a movie and the other one hated it. And they would have to discuss this. Oh, that's what made that show so special. I should check on YouTube. I bet you there are reruns of the show, even if they're 20, 30 years old. It doesn't matter. I'd love to watch them again. And I guess while we're on the subject of Siskel and Ebert, I shouldn't let this go. Saturday Night Live, or supposed to say SNL. I'm from the generation where it was live from New York, Saturday Night Live. This was, I think, back in the 80s. And this was one of the most wickedly scandalous skits they ever did. They did a takeoff on Siskel and Ebert. I forget who was playing them, but they did fairly good impersonations of them. It was Siskel and Ebert reviewing gay porn. And Danny DeVito was the guest host, and they were cutting away to clips like Pizza Boy delivering and Danny DeVito they're at the door taking their pizza, and of course they cut away. And I won't talk about it further, but I remember that. And I don't know if Siskel and Ebert ever saw it or if they ever commented on it. I can't imagine them being too happy. Just to guess, Billy is not related to Billy Wilder. Andy, no relation there. Not that I would be aware of anyway. Let's see. No, Billy Wilder. Oh yeah, Ward, you just say it's funny. I answer a question, then I look and scroll down and I see that someone's already answered the question. Yes, Andy, I know they were known as the Not Ready for Primetime Prayers. back in the 80s, I met Gilda Radner. I also used to see Garrett Morris on a much more regular basis. He used to be a client, very sweet man, and he's still very much around. Um, let's see, and I've met oh my God, I'd have to thank all the cast members I have met over the years, because that show, the show's been on, of course, 50 years now. And so there's a lot of revolving cast members, but a lot of them are LA based. So a lot of them come to New York and then they come back out here, or other way around, or whatever. But like Kristen Wiig used to be a client. I hope I know I'm supposed to respect confidentiality here. And I don't think I'm saying anything bad. Just say she's come in, very sweet lady. Kristen Wiig, a very smart woman. I want to say that. Very, very smart. It's one of those people you have to be on your toes with when you talk to. She was one of those. Molly Shannon. Oh my God, what a love. What a love. I mean, a little kooky, a little nutty, but in the best sense of the word. I mean, just a heart of gold. And I wish I still had a connection with her, because I have a very dear friend in Canada. I guess you don't mind me saying this, Pam. She had her 50th birthday. I hope you really don't mind me saying that, Pam, but she celebrated her 50th birthday last fall, and she was sending out video invitations with that I'm 50 Molly Shannon's character. And I said, oh, Pam, I wish I could still talk to Molly Shannon, because I know I could have taken my iPhone and she would have made a personal video for you going, I'm 50. But yeah, I've met a lot of the Saturday Night Live people. Once, it was that movie, A Night at the Roxbury. I, to this day, have not seen it. Will Ferrell was in it, and I forget who else. But anyway, it was a lot of the Saturday Night Live people had little cameos, bit parts in it. And they were filming one day on location at the building next to my apartment building, and they were using the parking lot between our buildings, for the trucks and the crew and everything. And a lot of the SNL people would hang out in the parking lot, and my apartment was on the second floor with a little balcony overhead. And one day I was hearing all these voices. I said, this sounds familiar. It's like my TV's on or something. SNL on right now. I was hearing all these people from the cast look out my window, literally like 15 members of SNL, which was about the whole cast, literally underneath my balcony, like 10 feet down. So that was realistic, and one of those only in Hollywood kind of stories I can tell. Yeah, I hope Pam shows up. Pam she's a busy woman. She is incredibly creative and inspiring. She's one of these people who walks the walk. We have great conversations together. So I'm sure she's off working on one of her many, many endeavors right now. And you're saying, wish I had a connection with Lorraine Newman. I'm sorry to say I don't. Because I have always thought Lorraine Newman was such an underrated talent. She never got her due the way some of the others did. A lot of the other people from the original cast went on to be, to have movie careers and, certainly higher levels of stardom. Lorraine kind of, I don't know if it was her own, it may have been just her own choice, but it's like you didn't see much of her after SNL. And I always thought she deserved much more recognition. She looks incredible. I saw her on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special. My God, it's like the woman doesn't age. She looks phenomenal. Let's see here. Oh, Joyce, hey, we had people asking about you. Thank you for joining. And I'm seeing people go, Joyce, greetings, Miss Joyce. Hey, Joyce. It's funny when I watch Anastasia's show, a lot of you go on there and I see you always going, hi, 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 hi. And the show she did last Friday was like a little party going on with all the people there. And I know it helped her a lot. She talks openly about herself. So I'm not betraying confidence in saying she was a little depressed that day, down. She's had a lot of things hitting her. And I know that all of you made the difference, and you basically turned it into a party for her. And I just thank you myself. I thank you for doing that for her. Did anybody here meet Phil Hartman? No, I never did. I thought he was a great talent. admired him. And I thought it was such a tragedy about his being murdered. Terrible shame, but no, I never got to meet him. Lots about the late Tom Lehrer. He wrote some amazing songs for the original Electric Company. I saw yesterday on social media about his passing. I think he was 97. I have to confess, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I was reading that he went back and became a math professor. I think he left show business and went back to teaching, being a math professor. So what a diverse life. And, 97 when he passed on. Yeah, Jim, you're talking about Phil and how it's hard to talk to him about tears in your eyes. Missing so much. He was so funny and did some of the best impressions. He was also one of the older members of SNL. So many of these shows are so youth oriented. And I'd have to look up how old he was, but I think he was well into his 40s. Maybe, I don't know, could he have been in his 50s? I don't know, but he was definitely one of the older cast members. I think I've read he was even the oldest they ever had on there. I could be wrong on that. I'd have to check my facts, but talent was extraordinary. And he and Jan Hooks worked so well together. And she's another one who passed on way too soon. And I always thought she was another really underrated talent. She should have been much bigger than she was. But she certainly brought a lot of joy, laughter. And we're lucky we had people like that sharing their talents. And they had just the right vehicle to do it with. Yeah, you were asking about, or I hope Mr. Hartman's children somehow are okay. I don't know too much about them, but I agree with you. I hope they're okay. And I always wanted to be the next person on Sesame Street to do like what Bob McGrath did and sing "Who Are All the People in Your Neighborhood." That would be a sweet thing. Sesame Street, I was already too old for that show when it premiered. But some things are like comfort food. And I remember being like 10, 11 years old, 12. It'd just be on late in the afternoon. And that and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, somehow I'd get sucked into them just because it was just comforting and reassuring. And I wish that show had been around when I was the right age for it. It's done a lot of good. But yeah, Bob McGrath, he was very sweet. Ward, you wanted to be on Sesame Street and the Electric Company. I thought I could be on both due to one show following the other. Well, that's a good point, right? Just jump from one to the other, kind of like Purple Rose of Cairo when Mia Farrow jumped into the movie screen, where you could just jump from one TV show into another one. But Electric Company was clever. And what was interesting about that show? It had not one, but two Oscar-winning actors in its cast, Rita Moreno, and then Morgan Freeman went on to become an Oscar winner. So I was intriguing. And the two of them share, to this day, a very close friendship. In fact, Rita Moreno was on a talk show, and she was being given her, look who just jumped up here, Sasha. She was being given her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And she made a point of telling the interviewer, Morgan Freeman, at his own expense, got on a plane from the East Coast to fly out here just to be there at my star unveiling and to speak. And she just said he's such a good friend. I thought that was lovely. Now I think about it, I'm sorry they never worked together again, like in an adult project, like a real movie or something. Both splendid actors. Pop quiz, Andy. Who was the first host of SNL? That was, let's see. I think that was George Carlin, wasn't it? Was it George Carlin? Or who was I'm trying to think of the other actor. He was in They're Playing Our Song with Lucille Arnaz. Blanking on his name, but I think it was George Carlin. And I met George Carlin many times. Oh yeah, Jim, thank you. Yeah, I was right on that, George Carlin. But when I was working in Brentwood, they sometimes would swap me around. George Carlin, Sasha here. So I have to watch her and make sure she doesn't jump up on the keyboard or do something naughty or knock my drink over and electrocute me, like I was talking about. But sorry. Um, when I was working in Brentwood, George Carlin lived in the neighborhood, so I'd see him sometimes as much as 3 times a week. Very serious and low key in real life, which I've found with many comedians. It's like turning the light switch on or off. I would see him when the light switch was off, but very smart, intellectual, another person you had to be on your toes with when you talk to. And I'm grateful that I had that opportunity with him. Let's see here. Get back to comments here, George. And I'm forced myself to start up my HP. I'm thinking of at least in Mercury retrograde. I'm changing to StreamYard. Yeah. Well, Joyce, Whimsy and I are using StreamYard right now. This show, I'm of course just doing on YouTube, but Whimsy and I, because we have the split screen and so forth, she has found that works well, and I need to look into that. But Joyce, I also know, don't do things like this during a Mercury retrograde. People think we're crazy, but I have lived and learned the hard way. Like the whole thing about don't sign documents, contracts during a Mercury retrograde, major life changes. It's true. So I lay low. During this time. Oh, you're saying George Carlin. Let's see. I like the skit with when Pryor was host, when him and Chevy were saying all those interesting words. Yes, I know what you mean. I know that was. In fact, I don't even know if they could get away with that today with today's political climate, because the N-word was said, but Chevy and Richard Pryor were doing it to make a point. There was a content behind it. There was a point, but just the same, it was shocking. It's shocking to this day, 50 years later. When you hear those words being said. What's it, Joyce? I saw that, and there's a 10% off from following Whimsy's link. Well, that's good, Joyce. I didn't know that. Happy to provide it for you. Andy, at least somebody got to meet was Butch Patrick, Larry Wilcox, and Robert Pine. Well, that's pretty good. That's better than a lot of people. There are a lot of people who never meet celebrities in their lifetime. Because much of it has to do with it being regional, as I was saying. If you live in some little town in, Oklahoma or something, the chances of running into Barbara Streisand are going to be pretty low, but there are these things called Hollywood shows where, celebrities will now travel around these conventions where they'll sit at tables. And of course they chart Sasha. Sorry, she's got my good drawing pen here. She was just about to deal with it. Yes, Sasha. They travel around to major cities around the country, and they'll sit at a table, and they usually charge a fee to sign a picture or an autograph, but it's a chance to shake their hands and talk with them. And I don't know, Andy, I don't know if you could find anything like that near where you are. Just maybe Google search Hollywood show, see if you find anything like that. Award, thank you for joining. You said you had to go. I appreciate you coming in. Good luck tomorrow with your early hours. But yeah, well, Jim was going, wow, you got to see Eddie Munster. I'm trying to think, did I ever meet anyone from the Munster show? I don't think I did. I'm thinking on that. No, I didn't. I used to love the Munsters when I was a kid. I saw a really good interview with Yvonne DiCarlo on YouTube in her latter years, where she was telling some good stories. And she was telling one story. She was good friends with Milton Berle. And there was one day, she was on her lunch break. And, with all that makeup, it took, I think, like 2 hours to make each of them up. Even though the show was in black and white, they had full green makeup on, and she had that long wig with all the extra hair hooked onto it and everything. So it wasn't easy to change in and out of the costume. So the actors would just stay in their costumes, like when they'd go across the street or something for lunch or something. Well, Milton Berle was there, and he saw her all dressed as Lily Munster, and being the smart ass he was, he goes, "Hey, Yvonne, are you working today?" I think she kind of gave him a finger or something. Yeah, I forgot what else I was going to say about the Munsters, but anyway, I had a story. I can't. Oh, maybe it'll come back to me. And my comments keep moving on me here. Let's see here. See what people are saying here. Oh, let's see. You got to stand next to another celeb when you sang in a college choir. That's good. Let's see. Oh, Henry, so you got to stand next to Kenny Rogers. That's pretty good. Yeah, you saw Sasha. Oh, she comes and goes. Anybody who has a cat knows you can't control them. People go, well, why don't you train her? Train her? Have you ever tried to train a cat? Right, Joyce? Kate, I've been watching a lot of Monsters lately. Great escapism slapstick during these heavy times. I am in such agreement, Kate. We need so much escapism right now. What we need is laughter. We need joy. Anything. A lot of people tell me they don't watch the news. And, I certainly respect that people have to do what they have to do. I am the personal belief that we have to watch the news. We got to stay on top of what's going on right now, because I think that the higher Bs don't want us to. They want to slip stuff past us, and I like to be on top of it. But another thing is, I have no choice right now. I've talked about the show that I do with Dr. Whimsy Anderson, which I love very much doing on Tuesdays, and we just expanded it to Thursdays. So I have to be on the news train. That's what I'm calling it. I have to ride the news train. I can't just get on it for a day or two, get prepared for the show, and then slack off. I've got to stay on my toes, and I've got to follow the news. I've got to immerse myself in it, and I've got to just ingrain it and make it part of my daily living right now. But that's good for me, because I love studying anyway. I find I actually do better when I study. I've always loved research. I've loved reading. I loved being in school. And this is just a reminder of how that was always so good for me. That's just me. Let's see. Kennedy, wasn't the nicest person to meet. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't have many bad celebrity stories. I'd say 99.5% of the time. It's the old thing. You treat somebody with respect and decency, you're going to get respect and decency back. And I've also learned what I call celebrity etiquette, that most celebrities just want to be treated like a regular person. And as long as you remember those things, usually you're just fine. But I have talked to people who've had some bad experiences. Usually I don't like to say negative stuff about people. I've got to tell this one. It's not the worst of the worst, but a friend of mine, she was a big fan of the show Roseanne. It's not Roseanne Barr. She was a big fan of the show, and she loved John Goodman. Just loved him. And it was, she lives here in LA, but she was originally from Texas. She was a transplant out here. That's when she used to watch Roseanne in her little town in Texas. So she was with her sister here in LA. I think it was in Studio City, and they were at a local deli having breakfast. It was a Sunday morning brunch, breakfast, whatever. And there was John Goodman at the table. And my friend walked over, and she just put her hand on his arm and said, "Are you who I think you are?" And then before she could say, "I've always loved it," he just said, "Yeah, honey, I guess I am," and took her arm up and said, "Okay, bye," and just dismissed her. And, I guess he just wanted to have his breakfast and be left alone. But I know my friend approached him in a sweet way. Well, anyway, to cut to the chase, she was in tears. She was crying. She left the restaurant crying. It hurt her so badly. And she said to this day, she can't watch Roseanne anymore. She has such a negative, she had such a negative experience with him. But I know, like I said, there's two sides of the story. He was probably looking at like, oh God, here's another fan, and she's got her hand on my arm, and I just want to eat my breakfast, But he could have been a little nicer to her. Let's see, Jim. You got to meet Brian Wilson. Oh, he was signing autographs after one of his shows. I saw him perform a few years ago at the Hollywood Bowl. The Beach. I don't know if it was the original Beach Boys or not, but this was, what was this? At least a decade ago or more. And I remember at the Hollywood Bowl, someone brought a beach ball, and 18,000 people, and we were all bouncing the beach ball back and forth between the audience members. It was just like a big summer outdoor party. It was so much fun. Let's see. What was this, Joyce? Maya, your kitty, has a favorite tube show. She loves Todd. Aw. I was telling this story, and I just remembered I forgot to send this photo to a friend that I promised to send. I was telling her that my cat loves to watch cartoons. No kidding. I think it's because she's just fascinated with all the colors and the fast-moving action and the sound effects and the music. But the movie, the movie musical Cats, based on the legendary Broadway musical Cats, Andrew Lloyd Webber, and of course the movie was just a disaster. It was a debacle. It's regarded by many as one of the worst movies made in the history of cinema. And I have to confess, I found it hard to sit through. But it was on HBO Max, and I had it on my iPad. I had it on my little stand. Sasha walked up, sat down, and proceeded to watch the movie for the next hour. And she was completely enthralled. I mean, her head was going back and forth, and she was watching it, and she was just like really hanging on to it. She was really watching Cats. My cat was watching Cats, and I took a picture of it, and I posted it, and I said, I swear this is not a staged picture. This is for real. This is my cat watching Cats. And I promised a friend I would send it to her, because we were talking about this, how our cats like to watch things on TV. Let's see here. Todd talks. He had a big vocabulary. Dad taught him to use sound buttons to talk. Aw. Let's see. People saying hi to each other. Jim, how to do a beach ball? Oh, it was just one big beach ball. It's just, the Hollywood Bowl is just a big outdoor venue, and people were just bouncing the ball up in the air, and it'd go and float over someone else in the audience, and then they'd bounce it up and it'd go to somebody, and they were doing that throughout the show. But it was kind of sweet. And I don't know if Brian Wilson was aware of it or not on stage, but that was going on. Excuse me here. Let's see. People are asking how they are. And Joyce, you took a few photos. Oh, that's great. Yes, Jim, cats can be the funniest creatures, and they can also be annoying. Where did Sasha go? I don't even know where Sasha is right now. I'm sure she will be back out here again. No, she didn't sing along with the songs. She just kind of sat just watching very intently. She might have been thinking, oh my God, these humans are weird. They're wearing cat outfits, and they're pretending to be cats, and they're not even getting it right. But anyway, my cat has watched Cats. I had a friend who she said her dog used to love to watch television, and there was one night she fell asleep in front of the TV, and the dog was sitting on the edge of the sofa, just watching the television, enjoying it. And I have a big screen TV. Sometimes Sasha, if there's like an animal on TV or a bird flying by, she will come and run up to the TV. I don't know if any of you have seen the Netflix series Our Planet, which is just superb. It's lots of wonderful animal things on their pieces, and Sasha loves that show. Um, yes, Joyce, Sasha loves to photobomb my live stream. Yeah. And, now I'm thinking about this. See, the woman who was the Siamese cat breeder that I got Sasha from, she has a house full of Siamese cats because, she has 5 mothers and she has a male cat that acts as the stud. She's a very, very happy male cat. And then constantly kittens in the house. So many times she has her big screen TV on and all of the cats will converge around the television set. And she usually puts on nature shows. But she said there was one time it was a hyena and it was attacking another animal and like ripping it apart. And she said all of a sudden all the cats were like, yeah, 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 yeah. They all got so upset when they were watching that. Oh, poor things. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Joyce, I've seen a dog who got really upset watching Lion King. I think that's a video, isn't it, on social media or YouTube? I've seen that. There might be variations of it, but it was a dog that started whimpering and crying. It came to the part where the lion got killed, the father lion, and there was a stampede and the lion was killed. Yeah. Yeah. They're our animals are smart. They're very perspective of things, and I think we can learn a lot from our pets. Valerie, Chuck, I pet set for a French building that loves watching a French bulldog. Pardon me, my contact lenses here. I said building, French bulldog that loves watching TV. Anything with animals, and she gets so excited. Yes, that's like Sasha. She just loves nature shows. And French bulldogs are so sweet. Oh, I adore them. Out here in Los Angeles, there's been a lot of problems. I haven't heard it for a while, but there used to be a lot of news stories of people having their French bulldogs kidnapped. People would actually be out walking, and there'd be stories of like cars pulling up, and they'd be held up at gunpoint, and the dog would be taken away from them, and just horrible things. That happened to Lady Gaga's 2 French bulldogs. She was away making a movie, and her assistant had that happen, and he was shot. I mean, he survived, but he was hospitalized, but he was shot, and the 2 French bulldogs were abducted, and there was, I know they were eventually found, but I think Lady Gaga put up a huge reward, something like a $50,000 or more reward. She said, no questions asked. I just want my dogs back. And, that always breaks my heart on multiple levels. It's hard for the owner, but think about the poor dog. The poor dog. They don't know what's going on. All they know is they're being snatched away from their beloved owner, and they're being taken away by this stranger. And I've heard many cases, like French bulldogs often have, unfortunately, a lot of health issues. They need medications and things. And it's heartbreaking. And I think, we use that term, there's a special place in hell for certain people. I like to think it applies to anybody who would do a thing like that. Oh yeah, Andy, I've seen that video of the dog. I've seen the version of that with the cat where they're watching the horror movie and eyes get real big. Valerie, I had a big scare walking that dog last week in Naples, Florida. It was a gated community. Oh, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Valerie. But I hope everything is okay. But yeah, you have to be, especially when you live in big cities like this, you shouldn't have to be careful when you're just taking your dog on a walk. But unfortunately, the thing with French bulldogs is they command a very big price on the, I guess you call it the black market or whatever. And that's why there's a lot of dog nappings. And, now that I'm on the subject here, forgive me if this is a little grim, but I'm going to tell this before I forget it. A good friend of mine, she had her dog stolen right out of her yard. She had a gated yard, and apparently a car pulled up. Some man came and just reached over the fence, grabbed the dog, and went off with it. And my friend was of course, devastated. And she put flyers up all over the neighborhood, lost dog, $1,000 reward, no questions asked. And sure enough, that afternoon, the phone rang and this man said, I got your dog. Come here and I want my reward. And obviously it was the dog napper. And my friend had a dilemma, but she wanted her dog back. That was the bottom line. She wanted the dog back. So she went to the bank, got $1,000, paid that son of a bitch. Could use stronger language. And she got her dog back. But there are people who do that. They kidnap dogs and then they wait for people to put up the flyers with the reward, and then they make the call and claim the reward money themselves. Again, I hope there's a special hell for people like that. In this case, this was a dog, a little sweet little Maltese dog, about 12 years old. And the dog was so traumatized. My friend said she was never the same again. She was nervous. She shook all the time, and she died about 6 months later. And my friend feels it was because of that dog napping. Anyway, sorry to talk about grim things like that, but maybe it is a little bit of a reminder. Anybody who has a beloved pet, just don't take anything for granted. Even my cat, Sasha, she's a purebred Siamese. And I've often thought if she were to ever get outside, in a city like this, someone would probably steal her very quickly. Just, oh, here's a Siamese cat and take it. It'd be heartbreaking for her and for me. And of course, the other reason I don't let her outside, I live where there are a lot of cars that go by, and we get coyotes in this neighborhood. They come down from the hills of Griffith Park. So when people say, oh, why don't you let your cat go outside? No, I love her too much to do that. And she's always known the indoors, literally since she was a kitten, since she was born. Other than to be put in a carrier and taken to the vet, she's never known any other life than this. And she seems very happy here. You see her jumping around and everything. And yeah, the hard part is that people don't have that much money. You're right. Yeah, let's see where some other comments here are. Yeah, Joyce, yeah, it's awful, isn't it? It's just, I think for people like ourselves, I include all of us who are, we're good natured. We have good hearts, and it's really hard to see that there can be some really cruel people. Like what kind of deficit do you have in your soul? What kind of blackness is in your heart that you could do something like that? It's just like people who mistreat animals. No. Not cool, not good. But anyway, I've been on here. Oh, Joyce, you've had 2 dogs stolen. I'm deeply sorry. Deeply sorry. Did you ever get your dogs back, Joyce? What happened? But as I was saying just a few minutes ago, I think it's even more traumatic for the pets than the owner. The owner, they just don't know what's going on. Andrew, you were always saying, I was just looking at my clock here because I'm going to sign off in a bit because I have some things I need to do. And also I don't want to cut into my dear friend Anastasia's showtime. Last week, I had it down to the wire. We had so many things to talk about. I didn't get off here until about 3 minutes before she went on. But it was okay. It was all good. But Joyce, you didn't get your dogs back. I am sorry. So sorry. Oh my God. And I worry about that. I worry about things like that. My cat is microchipped. I don't know. I've never had to take advantage of the microchip, like have her scanned or anything like that. Thank goodness, because she's never been taken away. But I like to think that gives at least some protection there. You know what I know you can put a GPS tag on a collar, but Sasha's not the kind of pet you can put a collar on. Trust me, I tried it. She will not let you put a collar on her. A lot of cats don't like them, but a GPS tag is one approach. But I wish there was a way our technology would advance these microchips where they would have GPS technology. That way we could literally track our pets on our phones, know where they are. I'm thinking of how many times I use on my iPad Find Your iPhone, because I'm always putting my phone down, always. And sometimes the phone is literally underneath me, like under the couch cushion. I'm literally sitting on it. But with that Find Your iPhone, you just hit that and it beep, 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 beep. And oh, there it is, you know. But I don't know how Sasha would feel if I had her tagged with GPS and I could make her go beep, beep, beep when I was looking for her. Would that be considered animal abuse? I don't know. Yeah, Joyce, that was before they chipped animals. Yeah, now, do you have Maya chipped now? I think it's a very important thing to do. What I did when I had Sasha spayed, when she was about roughly 7 months old. I know I did it as soon as the vet said it was okay to do it. And while she was having surgery, I said, could you just go ahead and put the microchip in her also? And he said, oh yeah, many people ask to do that when we spay or neuter the pet. Anytime to take my fish for a walk. Yeah, Maya is chipped. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you better get the tweezers. Your fish went in the yard. I'm thinking of that Dr. Seuss book. I loved it when I was a kid. It was about the little boy and the goldfish, and the mother warned the little boy, don't overfeed your fish. And of course, he was feeding and feeding the fish, with the little shaker, and the fish kept growing and growing and growing until the fish grew to the size of a whale. And I kept that book. When I was cleaning up my parents' house, there were very few childhood toys I kept, but I did keep that book. I've got it somewhere. Yeah, Joyce, your other kitties from Tucson were chipped as well. It's a good technology to have. I hope we never have to put it to the test, but it's good that we have our pets microchipped. I don't know how Sasha feels about it, but Sasha, it's because I love you and it's your higher good. Yeah, that's it. Jim was mentioning Dr. Seuss there. Yeah. Well, I was looking at my little clock here to keep track of the time. I haven't been on here quite an hour and a half yet, but I've been on for a while. I may sign off soon unless somebody has a topic, a question, anything you'd like to throw at me. All this worthless information stored up in my brain. Anything you'd like to throw at me? Let's see. So far, oh, Jim, I love Sasha. Yeah, I love her too. She can be a pain in the ass, but I love her. She's a little, and Joyce, I've told you this. She's an Aries female. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about, Joyce. She's got all the personality characteristics. Joyce, is Anastasia streaming tonight? To the best of my awareness, she normally does a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I haven't communicated with her too much today, but I'm assuming the answer is yes. I'm plugging her just as she is doing a 7 p.m. tonight. And then I guess if for some reason she's not on, you'll find out soon enough, but she should be there. I know she did a bonus show on Saturday, and I didn't get a chance to see them, but I heard it went over well. But Joyce, the Friday show, I was mentioning this earlier, that was a party. That was just a party. And it was at a time when she really needed it. And I can tell you personally, it lifted her spirits greatly. And, Anastasia, and I'm not telling anything she doesn't tell herself, but she's someone who really needs to be around people. I tend to be a loner. I do really well by myself for some weird reason, but she needs to be around people. And that's just an acknowledgement and acknowledgement. And a lot of people are that way. And so doing these live streams to her really gives her that vicarious feel that she is surrounded with people and people to interact with. And she's a born entertainer, very intellectual, but she also wants to be a stand-up comedian. She harbors a desire to do that. And Friday night, she got to just cut loose and be that, be wild and silly and crazy and just all over the place. I loved how people were responding to her. Andy Chuck, nobody knew about the stream. She wanted to test it out and not tell anybody about it. Really? Uh, you mean the Saturday night she just wanted to test it out? Well, I guess people found her, it's just like this show. I mean, I know I'm supposed to send out an announcement and all that. I'm really bad about it, but I find you all know you get an announcement or something that I'm on the air, and that's certainly the case with Anastasia. And, any of the YouTube shows you subscribe to, you usually get a bulletin. So and so is on live right now, and so I think people found her. She said she had a big turnout, so good for her if it was just a test stream. Uh, uh, Valerie, I'm a loner too, always have been. You know what? I don't mind being alone. I think because I always have so many projects. I'm deeply creative. I'm always working on artwork. I'm always writing, planning my next venture, or I'm doing work for Whimsy. Or anyway, I don't feel lonely. I don't. It's just a weird thing. And I think I've talked about this with people where maybe I get this from, and this is not to be heavy or anything, I promise. But as a child, I was a bullied, picked on child. I did not have many friends. I grew up in a little small town. Nobody got me. And that's true with a lot of people like ourselves. We have to move to a place like Los Angeles where people do get us and where we do fit in. And for me, my life really began when I went to college and I went to art school, and I was surrounded with actors and artists and writers and musicians and people who were just as crazy as me and eccentric and thought like I did. But I was alone a lot as a kid. Now, it was hard initially, but then I came to love it because I literally, I know it sounds like a cliche to say be your own best friend. I literally had to learn at an early age to be my own best friend and to know how to entertain myself. And that's always stayed with me. And it was hard as a kid for a while, but as an adult, it has served me so well. During the pandemic lockdown, so many people were having meltdowns. I got to get out of this house. I got to be with people. And I was just as happy as could be. That's just weird me. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there, but that was in response. It was saying that you tend to be a loner yourself. Let me get back to some comments here. So if I can do this without making it jump. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to find my. Oh yes, Jim, you were saying I've been a loner too. Yeah. Oh, Joyce, one of the pups was a Cocker Spaniel. And years later, I saw a man walking one who looked just like her. Oh, I had a Cocker Spaniel. It was the last dog I ever had many years ago. She passed away from lymphoma, black and white Cocker Spaniel. I loved that dog dearly. But after she died, I was in a lot of grief. But then it was about a week or two later, I thought, I don't have to get up at 6:30 in the morning to take her out to pee. I don't have to stand under an umbrella in the rain, shivering, waiting for the dog to go. I don't have to live my life around a dog's schedule, because when you have a dog, you have to do that. Cats, they're as independent as any pet you could ever have. Dogs, it's like a 3-year-old child. You have to live your life around them. So I just found it easier. And then my living situations changed. Like I was in a different apartment where you weren't allowed to have dogs, that type of thing. So I just never got around to getting another. And now I'm just happy with the cat, the simplicity of that. But I love dogs dearly. I'm so sorry about your loss, Joyce. I really am. Let's hear some other comments here. Oh, Joyce, if only we had a real life Ace Ventura. Yeah, the pet detective. Yeah, we need people like that. The other puppy was really young. Oh, God, what a heartless thing for someone to do. Just heartless. And I mean that, heartless. Yeah, just very. I just prefer solitude. I'm very good with my own company. I'm very good traveling by myself. Like Europe. I'm very good by myself in Europe. I love it's not that I don't enjoy the companionship, but I like being able to come and go as I please and make my own itinerary. I like that very much. And I'm someone I can be very happy. I always have stuff to work on. I have maybe 20 books I'm between right now. I have movies, TV shows to catch up on. I have music that I love. I have gazillion podcasts to listen to. I, my art, my writing, everything. I have enough to keep me always entertained. Um, let's see here. Where's some other comments here? And oddly enough, that click, that ding you just heard was Anastasia liking my messages. I was like, Anastasia, stop that! I'm on the air right now. Gee. I don't think she realizes that it makes a sound when she does that. I'll tell her later. Do you want me to ask if she's doing her live stream? Why do I do it? You're going to get to see me do it in real time here. I'm doing my live stream right now, but viewers want to know if you're doing your live stream tonight. Let's see if she responds. Let's see here. Where's some other comments? Oh gosh, these comments keep moving on me. I'm sorry, this is jumping around on me. It's hard to read moving targets here. But sorry, there was a comment here, and I wanted to respond to it. Let's see. Let me scroll back here. Oh, Joe. Okay, Valerie. Yes, this is coming out now. I'm the caretaker for my 94-year-old mom and never alone. And well, bless her heart. I hope your mother is doing well. Oh, Valerie, I just came to your comment here that your mother's very ill. Well, I'm deeply, deeply sorry to hear that. And I know you have our collective prayers here. I know that we're all going to send energy to her. Well, Anastasia hasn't responded, so all the times. Oh, wait, she's typing something here. I will be able to let you know. She said, yes, I am. So, yes, Anastasia is doing her show at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, and I have it right from the source here. I just let everyone know I'm still on the air. Okay. Let's see here. No, Jim. Oh, yeah. Thank you for the reminder. I don't want to miss Anastasia, Valerie. Thank you, Joyce. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Valerie. You very much have our love and our support and our prayers there. You know, I have a friend. His mother is only in her 80s, but he's in the position of being her caretaker right now. Frank, thankfully she's not doing so badly, but it's enough where he does have to devote a lot of his life to her care. And I know how hard that is. And I know my father, it was when my mother was ill. And my mother was a very, very strong-willed woman. She did not want any kind of nurses coming in, assistants. No, no, no. And so my poor father, who was 82 years old, it fell to him to be her 24/7 caretaker, and it just about killed him. And my sister, who used to be in home healthcare business, said this was a common thing, where many times it was very, very hard for the spouse because it often fell to them to be the caretaker. So good luck to you, Valerie. Anyway, did Anastasia say anything else to me here? I don't think so. Oh, she just clicked and gave me a heart. Yes. So she's getting ready to do her show. And of course, her show is on the Sacred Spears channel. And most of these names I see here, I usually see on her show too. It's like you jump my ship and you jump to the other. It was like, I think it was Ward who said about how it was his childhood fantasy to be on both Sesame Street and the Electric Company. He said he would just jump from one show to the other. So I think that's rather appropriate. And I think Miss Sasha here agrees. Oh, are you going to be a good kitty? Look at this. She's being a good cat. She's been good. Let's see here. Let's see what this comes through stream too. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying. Huggable Sasha. Yeah. Before I go, did anybody have? Sorry. Yes, it looks like I'm being rough with my cat, but I'm just. This is how she likes to be held. Yeah. Look at that. Because she has that look on her face right now. Okay, I think she likes it. Sometimes she has a look on her face like, put me down, human. I don't want to be held. I'm not in the mood. She's in a sweet mood right now. She's purring. Okay, I'm going to put you down, Sasha. Let's see what else is here. Well, she does have a little bit. She's not literally cross-eyed, but many purebred Siamese do have that look in their eyes, the way they're set, that they're cross-eyed. So that's where it comes from. Joyce, there was a local kids show called Brakeman Bill, I thought it said my bluebird toupee. My bluebird troop went to be in the audience. Oh my gosh, I bet that was fun. You're reminding me of my late friend Bart Andrews. He and his sister Kathy grew up in New York City in the 1950s. And they used to go sit in the audience of Howdy Doody. It was done from New York, and the kids, it was called the Peanut Gallery. My friend Bart and his sister Kathy were part of the Peanut Gallery on that show, if you've ever seen it. And that was a regular thing for them. I think they went maybe once or twice a month to the show. In fact, Kathy, as a teenager, worked as a page at CBS in the early 60s. And she was working the night the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show. The famous time they came to America and appeared on Ed Sullivan in 1964. Because she worked there as a page, she got to sit in the audience. What a story. What was this here? What, Joyce? No, you spelled it right. That was me. That's just my eyes. Yeah, I have these multifocal contact lenses, and you have to blink sometimes. And when you're seeing fine print, sometimes it plays tricks on me. I was laughing about that because when I glanced, it looked like it said toupee. No, true. No, you spelled it perfectly, Joyce. What was this? So, Andy, great. Why do a picture a bathroom skit on the Howdy Doody show? I don't know. I don't recall such a thing. But the Howdy Doody show was a big deal. And Bart had, these were mass merchandise to kids, those string marionette puppets of Howdy Doody. And Bart had one, and when he died, he left his to me, and I have his hanging in my kitchen right now. My original 1950s Howdy Doody puppet. Remember, it's Howdy Doody time. And a little bit of trivia there. At one time, the actor who played Clarabelle the clown was Bob Keeshan, who went on to be Captain Kangaroo. Remember Captain Kangaroo? Just when I say that name, I envision being in pajamas and having a bowl of cereal with milk. Great childhood memory. Valerie, what? No, multifocal contact lenses aren't scary. Not in the least. I have worn contact lenses since I was 14 years old. There is nothing to wearing contact lenses. It's purely psychological. But if I can talk here, multifocal is literally where you've got a prescription for up close, mid range, and distance, and it's all built into the lens. And you just have to train your brain to work with the lenses so you can seamlessly move back and forth between the focal points. And sometimes when I'm here focusing on the screen and then I go over to the small print, sometimes it takes just that moment to adjust. That's why sometimes I mess up on a word or you see me squinting a bit. But I promise you there's nothing scary about multifocal contact lenses. In fact, I love my multifocal contact lenses. And I actually see better out of contacts than I do eyeglasses. Valerie, I have bifocals and cannot handle it. Well, one problem is, a lot of glasses will have a prescription for distance and up close, but not mid-range. And I was not even aware of this until my eyes started to age and I started to lose these things that I had always taken for granted. And I had a pair of contacts made initially because I was having a lot of trouble with the multifocal. And it was not that I was having trouble as far as hurting my eyes. It was just seeing out of them, getting used to them. It took me almost a month. And my optometrist said, well, why don't we just make you a pair that's just for distance and up close? Tried those, literally lost all my mid-range vision. It was just like a blur in the middle. I said, I'm an artist. I'm an illustrator. I'm very detail-oriented. I can't live like this. So those contacts went out the window very fast. Oh, I have my eye teeth and I can't see what I'm saying. I haven't heard that joke. No, I'm just grateful for technology. And I also get asked that question. This is usually from younger people. Why don't you have LASIK? Well, the thing is, they can only, the surgery can only fix your eye to one focal point. So you can choose distance, up close, but you can't do all three. If they could invent a LASIK to do all three, I would do it. No, right now, contact lenses are the best solution for me. And I'm very visually oriented anyway. I'm extremely sensitive to sight. That does sound like a joke Red Skelton would say. There was someone on here last week who was talking about Red Skelton. And I was mentioning that there is a treasure trove on YouTube of the original full-length hour-long shows, the original videotape masters. So it looks just like it looked when it was broadcast. And they've got both the black and white and the color era of the Red Skelton show. And anybody who's a fan should check that out. It's simple as just typing in the Red Skelton show and you'll see them all pop up. But I've been having fun with that. I check those out sometimes at night. And sometimes it's fun just for the nostalgia aspect of it. I'm sorry that variety shows bit the dust. They're a rarity now. Or what little there is, it does not resemble the old-time variety shows of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They used to be almost like opening nights of Broadway musicals, and the host would come out in a tuxedo, or if it was Carol Burnett or Dinah Shore, she'd be in a beautiful evening gown, and you'd have a full orchestra and you'd have dancers and singers and you'd have big name guest stars and they'd show up in their tuxedos and their evening gowns. And they were so classy and you felt like you were at an elegant party. And we just don't have that anymore. And I don't think we'll ever have that again. Let's see, Joyce, my next door neighbor in Tucson had LASIK and they did two different lenses. She loved it. Now, I have heard where people have one eye done for distance and one for up close. But do you mean two lenses in the same eyeball? I don't know. I would consider it if it's really perfected and I could be assured I have distance, mid-range, and up close. But I do admit I'm a little squeamish about having my eyes operated on. But I know people have done it. My niece has done it. They tell me there's nothing to it. Oh, Andy, Martha Ray was incredible. She had a variety show in the 1950s. And I think there's one or two episodes on YouTube, unless they've been pulled. But those were classy affairs back in those days. Carol Burnett, who said what Joyce said, no, one for up close and another for distance. See, that's the problem. I don't want to lose my mid-range vision. That's why I wouldn't do it. The context worked just great for me, except for when you see me fumbling with the little teleprompter, the chat thing here. And I still, maybe YouTube does have this available. I don't know, but I wish they had this set up more like a teleprompter, where you can look into the lens of the camera and you see the text. I wish it was such that I could just look straight at you right now as I am right now and have the text running across the bottom of the screen. I don't know if YouTube does that or if there's a way to do it, but that would make my job so much easier. And make it more seamless, and hopefully I wouldn't miss as many comments as I do, because I never ever want to offend any of you if I miss one of your comments or your questions. Please know that it's just me making a boneheaded mistake. Oh yeah, Martha Ray did laugh a lot when she was on Red Skelton. She was quite endearing. I had a friend who knew her, he used to call her Maggie. That was her name in real life, Maggie. He loved her so much. Oh my God, I remember now. She married, at the end of her life, she married a much younger man. I mean, much younger. He was like in his 20s or 30s. And apparently he was after her money or something. But anyway, I still remember my friend, the morning he got the phone call. He said, what? He said he literally dropped the phone. He's like, you did what? Anyway, that was Martha Ray's business, and I hope he made her happy. That's all I care about. What takes place between two consenting adults is nobody's business, even though in his case, I think he was barely a consenting adult. I mean, I'm making bad jokes here. I think he may have been at least in his 30s, but Martha was well into her 70s. Let's put it that way. I want eyes like the $6 million man. Yes. And remember the counterpart, the bionic woman? She had the bionic hearing. He had the bionic eye. And I always remember when they'd show them running, they'd always be running in slow motion, Oh, Jim, thank you. I never offended you. I'm glad. I'm just putting it out there that it's never my intention. If I just miss a comment or something, it's purely accidental, because bottom line is I'm very respectful of each of you, and I'm grateful to each of you for coming here. And I'm checking my time here, looking at the upper part of my computer. It's 6:50. Anastasia is going on in 10 minutes. So I think I better wrap this up while I'm ahead of the game here. So I've got a little time to eat a little dinner and then get ready for her show. And hopefully you'll all come over and give her some support too, and give her some love. And of course, I am on twice a week now on the Oracle of Whimsy channel. Tuesday show, which we call Taco Tuesdays. I don't know if we have a name for Thursday show. With that show is with the wonderful Dr. Whimsy Anderson, and that's a much different show because we talk about a lot of current events, news events, do readings for people, and set up 4, but it's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm most grateful when you jump aboard, watch, and I know Whimsy appreciates it a lot. And Joyce, we need to talk about it in living color next time. Okay, we shall. That was a good show. I love Jim Carrey a lot. So anyway, comments popping up here at Jim Carrey now. So anyway, while I'm ahead of the game, and I have been on here for a long time, so I'm going to sign off and give you guys a little break too before you go over to her show. And I will be here next week, same time and same place, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. ish, because usually it's a few minutes off, but I'll be here. And well, thank you, Joyce. And I'll see you next week. So goodbye for right now.